Hello, Marky Dragon, also known as Marcus Eikenberry in real life. And today I'm going to tell you the full details, everything that I know about Glider versus Blizzard and the whole lawsuit. So this is going to be a pretty long video because there is an enormous amount of information that I have. And just got off the phone with Mike last night, Michael Donnelly, and he's like, it's all over, it's done. So say whatever you want. And I'm like, all right, because I've been waiting quite a while to talk about this. You'll have noticed that a lot of changes have happened with Marky Dragon, with the site, and with my YouTube channel since the beginning, which I believe was 2006, when Blizzard and Glider first got into the fray. And legally, that is. They had, for quite some time, been battling it out electronically in the game. Blizzard trying to stop them, and then Mike always making a workaround, or his company always making a workaround, and continuing to do it. So now, for those of you who don't know, Glider was a bot, and it was a bot for the game World of Warcraft. And World of Warcraft being one of the largest games in North America, that was a subscription-based game. At its peak was around 11 million subscribers, and Glider was a automation tool used to play your character without you even needing to be there. And so let me just, I'm going to go through a whole bunch of stuff, and I apologize if I refer to some notes sometimes, because I had to actually, most of these videos I just do it right off the top of my head. Well, this one I've got so much information that I've actually got notes on this. And so let's just start from the beginning. My first encounter with Glider was probably while it hadn't sold very many copies. Maybe to the point to where they had done, I don't know, maybe $100,000 worth of sales. And in the whole scope of things, with how much sales they did, $100,000 is not very much. So my first encounter with it was, I had just heard about it, and I had always been, back then, my company supported actions that violated the terms of service of video games. That included like botting, selling of gold, selling of accounts, stuff like that. These days we do not condone any of that. We don't do anything that violates the terms of service, and that's a conscious decision that was made by us, not that we were forced by Blizzard. Some people think that we were forced by Blizzard to exit that market, and that's not the case at all. The actual case is that we knew from evidence that we had that if we exited the gray markets, that our business would do better. And so we did exit, and our businesses did do a lot better. And so that was a choice of ours to go with what the mainstream wanted, and to not get into those gray areas anymore for anything that we do. Even though they weren't illegal, there were some people who didn't like it, and so we chose to make that change. So back then, I was playing WoW. I actually was in the Friends and Family beta, and that goes way back. I was playing WoW a year before it was released. And so when Glider came out, there was some things that I was really interested in doing. I was really interested in seeing whether or not I could farm gold in the game and then sell it. And what Glider gave the ability to do was for me to have a whole, let's just take one computer. And it allowed me to take that one computer and to get that character up to the highest level to where they could go out grinding around for money. And the money that they would make, I could sell. Now, when the game was in beta and just before release, gold was going for, I believe, $10 per gold. After the release, it went down to about $1 per gold. And there's a hyperinflation that happens in these games with the external economy, unless there's some really good gold sinks. And so most games, what happens is it starts out really high and it comes down lower and lower and lower. And that's what happened in WoW. But it was still, by the time I was getting into this, I'd say that it had been in production for at least 6 months. And so we got it up and running, and I actually really enjoyed running a bot. I really enjoyed running a bot, and I really wish that it wasn't a violation of the terms of service, because I personally, when I hit about 18 months of play in the game, I didn't enjoy playing it as much anymore. And 18 months is kind of around the point where a lot of people on MMOs, to where they might fade off or something. You know, it takes a really special kind of person to be able to continue beyond that point and not get bored. And so, anyway, I was running a bot, and I'm working, I'm at work, I have another computer running, and it's running the bot, and I watch what he's doing and everything, and every couple of hours I'd stop him, and I'd check his backpack, and I see what he had gotten and everything, and I'm like, all right, look at this stuff I got. And it was really, really cool. And I personally really enjoyed that. And but it was a violation of the terms of service, plain and simple. My account never got banned. At least my primary account. I was always there whenever it was botting, and I still have that account to this day. But I did a lot. What I did was I expanded, and I expanded out into. I think I had. Oh goodness, maybe. I bought 6 or 7 machines that I was dedicating to botting, and maybe I could find a picture of it here, and I'll put it right here. But let me describe. So I had my home office at the time, and my friends and family joked that it was a mini NASA, because I had like 3 keyboards on my desk, and I had, I don't know, 12, 13 monitors going up across, and a whole rack of computers and everything. And I had all of these computers. They were all botting while I was working on other stuff. And I would check in on them from time to time. I'd harvest the gold off of them and everything, and then we would sell it. And that went on for a while, and that was a lot of fun. But the market kept coming down and down and down, and I decided that was not going to be a good route for me, especially when China came on board, and the Chinese were not necessarily running bots. They were actually humans playing, but their wages are very low. You really, a Chinese worker, you could pay them a couple US dollars a day, and that was a good wage for them. And they'd live in these camps, and they would work, and in fact, when the documentary Play Money comes out, you'll be able to see one of these Chinese farms, maybe even a couple of them. I'm in that documentary for what I did in this market. Michael Donnelly, the inventor of Glider, is in there. I don't know if Blizzard is in there. I do know that they requested of interviews for it, but I don't know if they actually did. And I know that there are Chinese farms in there that they're actually going to show what they do. And so I can't wait for that documentary to come out. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So this is my experience with Glider, and then I decided, okay, what if I were to sell glider. I have made my living on my I've been self-employed for quite a long time, and I've made a good portion of my living from promoting and marketing products and doing that online. And I thought, you know what, I can do that for glider. And so a buddy of mine and I, we said, okay, let's do this with glider. And we started promoting glider. And at the time, this is back when, again, I was selling gold and stuff like that, stuff that violated the terms of service. And I want to make it very clear that y'all understand I'm not doing that stuff these days, so no haters, please. So back then, my buddy and I were 2 out of 3 of the top biggest affiliates for IGE. And we were sending so much business to them that that we were getting checks of over $10,000 a month from IGE, and it was pretty good back then. So with glider, we took the same approach that we had been very successful with IGE, and we said, okay, let's promote it. We did, and glider started to explode in sales, and we had web pages for glider that were getting, thousands of people a day visiting our page for glider and our promotions for glider. So we decided that we'd even take it a step further and actually start selling the keys for glider. And we actually opened a store for glider, and we did a lot of sales. I don't remember the exact numbers, and I probably shouldn't say any exact numbers anyway. That's private between Blizzard and glider, and I'll say that glider has done very well with their sales, and I was even impressed by it. So we decided to start selling the keys, and we made a store for it, and we started selling keys for glider, and that worked out pretty well. We were doing pretty high volume. So let me switch gears just a little bit. I'm going to come back to the business stuff, but let me just tell you about the first time I met Michael Donnelly in person, and this was at BlizzCon. And so Mike was there with some of his buddies, and they were I'm not sure what the word is, but they were baiting glider or baiting Blizzard. They were there. They had their glider hats and they had their glider shirts, and they were there, and we had a good time. In fact, the first night that we were there, we were in a bar that was right next to the convention center. And so it was really just Mike and his business partner and myself and one of my business partners, and we're just sitting at a table and just having a couple of drinks, and somebody recognizes glider on their shirts, and so people start coming over and everything, and then they're like, they're introducing it to me, of course, Marky Dragon, and next thing I know, we've got this crowd of people around us, and it was fun talking to all these players who had experience with glider and wanted to talk to us and everything. And here I am, I don't drink very often, but when I do, it tends to be something like Long Island's or something like that, which are pretty strong. They're like 4 or 5 shots in one glass, and so I don't drink very many of them. If you do, the night's over. But so anyway, we started having people offer to buy drinks for us, and next thing we know, I kid you not, so many people ask me, what do I drink? And I'm like, Long Island, and I had 8 Long Islands all lined up in front of me on the table. I'm going, how the hell am I going to drink all of this? Anyway, so started handing out drinks to everybody because it was just way too much for me, and I think we were all doing that. That was a pretty neat time to be recognized like that by fans and everything, and it certainly wasn't something that I was expecting, but it felt really good. And so after we're pretty well drunk, some of the Blizzard GMs come into the bar. And so, anyway, we are told by some of the other fans that are there that the Blizzard GMs are in the room. Specifically, one GM, which I'm going to leave unnamed, and he was in charge of banning accounts. And so he was like the final say on that, and he was the primary person working against botters and stuff like that. He didn't know that the Glider guys were here, or who I was or anything like that. But what happened next, I really wish I could show you this video, but to protect the privacy of this person, which he was a bit drunk too, this Blizzard employee. And I don't want to cause him any harm at his job or anything like that, so I'm not going to bring any undue attention to him and really out exactly who it was. But we had video on our cell phones. So we had taken cell phone video. In fact, one of my guys took this video, and he took cell phone video of the guys that were pro Glider against the Blizzard guy, and they were hammering back and forth in a debate. And Blizzard guy was really boasting about all the stuff that he had done, and he didn't give away any information that could be used against them, but that was fun. That was so fun to see that interaction between I guess the good guys and the bad guys. I mean, Glider ultimately, being in the gray market, I mean, they're closer to being the bad guys than the good guys. Although I'll get into a little bit later what I actually think about what they did. And so, anyway, that was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So later on, there's this lawsuit. So this lawsuit, it was. I'm not a good legal person, but what happened is that Blizzard people, lawyers specifically, one of them that you're going to get to see in a video that I'm going to link to in an annotation. There's another video that I posted anyway, you're going to get to see one of them. I have them on video from a panel that we did at Login in 2011. So they show up at Mike's door, and they're there to try and pressure him to stop selling Glider, and they threaten lawsuit and stuff like that. And by the way, this is all my own interpretation of all of the events that have happened. So some of this comes from what the Blizzard guys have told me, some of it comes from what Mike has told me, some of it comes from what my own experience is. I actually ended up being deposed as well by their lawyers. And so they were trying to pressure him about what it was that they wanted him to stop doing, which was to stop supporting and selling Glider. And it was an interesting tactic to actually show up at someone's door and try and do that. But if that were successful, that would have saved them a lot of money, because it was not successful, and Mike decided to fight. At the time, Mike had made enough money that he could hire lawyers to fight, to help him fight this, and that is what he did. The legal battle took many years. What is it? It was 4 years, something like that. And so during that time, sometime after this, and I knew that happened to Mike. Mike told me about it, and I knew that since Blizzard was so hot on him, that they might come back at me for promoting it. And I checked with my lawyers about whether or not this product that was being sold, whether or not they thought that it was illegal, and whether or not they thought that I had much legal risk on selling the product or promoting it. And they determined that it was not illegal. There was nothing you could go to jail for doing it. But of course that any company or any person can sue for any reason that they want to. And so if Blizzard didn't like it, that they could then pull me in for any reason. And pull me in they did. A while later, they actually, I got, I don't know if it was a formal legal request or whatnot, but I got a request to meet with Blizzard attorneys and to answer questions for them. And they were going to fly into town and meet me at a law firm in Portland, and they scheduled a whole day for doing this. And they not only did me, they deposed one of the guys that was a moderator in the Glider forums, who happened to live, I don't know, 40 or 50 miles away from me. I had never met the guy before, but I had talked to him a couple times since, and they deposed him as well. So what they asked for every customer record that we had that pertained to Glider. And so for the stuff that we were referring to Mike, the affiliate sales, we didn't have the customer information on that. We built pages that were designed to attract people in, give them information about Glider, and tell them where to go purchase it. They would go to Mike would make a sale, and then we would get a credit for each sale. So after that, we did have a store for them. And because we had that store, we had all of those customer records. Now, I believed that unless forced by a court, that I should not give up any of those records. And so all of you that bought Glider through us, none of your information was given to them. And so what happened was, they asked for the documents, the receipts for every single one of those. Well, we had those, and so we were able to generate a copy of every single receipt. And we didn't give it to them electronically, we gave it to them in paper. And so we printed out every single one of these receipts. And there was a lot. It was a lot. And we did what was called redaction. I think it's called redaction. To where we printed them out, and then we take a big black marker, and we take all information that is not in their request, that is not needed for what they're looking for. They wanted to see the sales of what the sales were and everything. And so it ended up being that we provided them a whole bunch of useless information, because we redacted the customer's name, address, phone number, their IP, and I don't know if we left like the country on there. We might have left like the country on there. And then all we left was the date, the receipt number, the product that was purchased, and how the sale came in, like whether it was PayPal or Moneybookers or whatever, and the dollar amount. And so they had these boxes and boxes of receipts. And so what you do is to redact, to actually make it so that you can't see all that information. You print out the first copy, you mark off everything, and everything that you mark off, you turn around and you photocopy it. And so this photocopy makes it so that you can't see the print through the black part that you marked out. Because if we just handed them over the original ones, you know how you can hold it up to the light, you can kind of see where it's a little bit darker through there, and you know, maybe see a little bit of gloss where the ink was or something like that. And so we had to photocopy every single one of these. Man, it cost me a lot. You know, my total lawyer bill was around $19,000, if I remember correctly, for a one-day deposition. And that was because of all the prep work that went into it ahead of time, all the redaction of the documents and everything. And that was very, very expensive. So when I get there, they got cameras set up, they're recording everything, and they asked me a bunch of questions, and I answered everything honestly. And they honestly didn't ask me any questions that I wasn't willing to answer. And but they didn't ask me like who was the customers or whatnot. But they asked me like, you know, how much in sales we did, you know, what we did to promote the sales, you know, and different things. And they were actually friendly, stern but friendly. And so I answered all those questions, and I actually remember recording a video of my thoughts right after, and thinking that I would maybe play it at a later date, like right now. I reviewed that video recently, and it really wasn't anything special. You know, it was a big deal to get deposed. It was a big deal to have to spend so much money on lawyers to protect the customer's you know, personal information, and so that was a big deal. But overall, being deposed, it was nothing. So during the time of the lawsuit, Glider got a lot of attention, and Glider's sales shot through the roof while this whole thing was going on with Blizzard, and they did enormously well on sales. I mean, really, really well. And in the lawsuit, Blizzard hit them with 7 or 8 items, and they fought back and forth, and Glider lost. Glider was forced to stop selling eventually, and so they stopped selling at that point. At this point, they had done a lot of sales, and so the whole thing, the other items, you know, I didn't agree with all of them, and I especially didn't agree with the only item that they lost on, and this was actually the big one. You know, it has to do with the DMCA, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, and so one of the items that Glider ultimately lost on, even after they went through the, I think it was Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is one step away from Supreme Court. Blizzard claimed that since and I may get this just a little bit wrong, you guys can correct me if you want to, this is just my memory on how all this stuff is that Blizzard claimed that because Glider read the memory of World of Warcraft, that it was accessing a copy that was not legally theirs. And so in the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, what that says is that if I were to, let's say I were to buy a game, and then I zip up the installation CD, and I start offering copies of the game for sale, and I delivered the software just in a zip or whatever to customers, and I just kept replicating it out, or I made more CDs and sent those out, something like that. that would be a violation of copyright, specifically the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, and that would be a big no-no, because you're stealing when you do that. You're making this copy and you're reselling it. So what Blizzard claimed was, because they were reading this copy in memory, that copy was owned by Blizzard, because Blizzard's application, World of Warcraft, made that copy, and they were not allowed to then use that copy for anything. That was only for Blizzard's use. It happens to be on your computer, but that was only for Blizzard's use. And Glider contended that you sell us this, you're putting it there and everything, and Glider needed to read the memory that World of Warcraft was creating in order to glean the information on how it would act and interact within the game. And so this is kind of the biggest point of contention with the whole thing. And they got put in with some other cases that it looked good at first and stuff, but ultimately the judge decided that it was not their right, that they had violated the Digital Millennium Copyright Act by accessing this. And so by accessing that, they lost. And so the court battle went on for quite a while, and they had these appeals and everything, and Mike's side, Glider's side, was able to overturn everything but that one item. And the damages and stuff, the financials on it, that's private information between them, but I can say that that Blizzard got what they wanted. They got it so that Glider is no longer being sold nor supported, and Mike was able to walk away without losing his shirt. And so both parties kind of got what they wanted. Mike, of course, would love to continue selling Glider. That was really a passion for him, and he really enjoyed it. And he's a bit of a rebel. He loved, working against the man. So that's kind of how the whole case has turned out, and there's not really anything else that's going to change on that at this point. So after everything was done, I got asked by one of the Blizzard attorneys to sit on a panel at Login to give my perspective on end-user license agreements and terms of service, because they knew that I read all of these things, and they knew that I had experience with knowing that these contracts were being broken by people botting and everything. But that was between the player and between Blizzard, not necessarily between like Glider. And so I sat on this panel for Login 2011. I'll put a little annotation down here. You can see it. I'll also put another one in the credits so that you can finish watching this video if you want to, and then go view it. But I will tell you, it's very boring. I'm putting it up more so for historical purposes, so that you can see how some of the lawyers think about the terms of service and the end-user license agreements. And it was an honor to be asked by them to be on the panel and everything. So, but my closing thoughts. So, my closing thoughts are that while I really enjoyed this, this is no longer this is no longer something that I support. And maybe I'm just a bit more mature now, maybe whatever. Maybe it's just a case of business smarts, and it is something that I don't encourage anymore at this point. And I want people to keep their game accounts. I want things to be as fair in game as possible, and equality throughout everything for the players. And Glider did not create any equality. It allowed those who had the money to buy this extra program and pay for it to then consume or produce a lot of extra resources within the game. And that being, I sometimes ran bots for like 18 hours in a day. And that's a resource against other players in the game, and that's a resource against the game publisher. And then there's the resource against the game publisher. It takes server time, CPU time, it takes bandwidth, which they all have to pay for, and your subscriptions are usually all equal. It also, there's something really interesting which I didn't know until much later, which is that it causes an enormous strain on customer service. And customer service is one of your highest cost centers, because it's actual humans there that are answering the phone, that are working you through your issues and stuff like that. And to get all these complaints about bots and about how to deal with them and the different effects from that really is a big drain on the company. So all of these things, being in there, bots are not okay. Now, they would be okay if it was sanctioned by the game company, the game publisher. And there are a few games out there where you can actually pay a higher monthly fee, or they're free-to-play games to where you buy this extra, thing that costs a lot of money, and it allows you to automate your character. And now that, I'd be into that. So if somebody's able to pay for that and it takes the resources, it doesn't necessarily balance things out in the game for the players, but that is the choice of the game publisher, and if the game publisher is going to allow it, I enjoyed doing that, and I would hop on board with that. But it's not how it should be for the equality of all players. And so that's my thoughts on botting today. And then one final note. I just heard yesterday that another company called Pocket Gnome is venturing down the same path as Glider did with Blizzard. So, should be interesting. Maybe we'll have some news stories on that in the future. Pocket Gnome guys, I don't know what you're thinking. You saw how it turned out with Glider, and but maybe you guys know something we don't. So, anyway, I'm Marcus Eikenberry. Take care.